Go to sleep. I dare you. 6 Scary Tales for Young Readers. Written by Mona Lisa Santos. Illustrated by Petra Stankovic. Narrated by Andrew Baldwin. You are about to hear 6 scary tales for young readers. Even though these tales are for the young ones who love to hear scary stories, parental and reader discretion is advised. Are you ready to hear these 6 scary ghost tales? I'm sure you are. Each scary story is pure fiction, but I am so sure something similar to these stories exists somewhere out there. Do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in the paranormal? Well, if you'd like to hear more, continue listening. And, if not, I suggest you turn off this audiobook now, in case you are the one who can't sleep after hearing scary stories. Now, let's begin. Each one has its own moral story at the end, especially for you young ones who like to misbehave. Enjoy. Go to sleep. I dare you. The woman in white stalks you. On a dark and silent night, when there were no stars in the sky and no people walking in the streets, little Michael behaved as badly as he always did. His mother tried to bathe him, but he refused. "Bathing is for fools, Mom. I'm never going to bathe," said the child. His mother replied, "Son, obey me, please. I only want the best for you." But he still paid no attention to her. When his mother told him to brush his teeth, he refused. When she asked him to do his homework, he refused. That same night, Michael's mother began to cry because he was an unbearably difficult child. "Son, I do everything for your own good. Don't you know what happens to disobedient children?" she asked. Michael replied, "Bah, disobedience is the best." She shook her head and in a serious voice said, "No, Michael. Disobedient children are visited by the woman in white, otherwise known as the White Lady. That's why I want you to listen to me, because if she comes for you, something horrible could happen." Michael continued to misbehave and even mocked the woman in white. His mother ended up leaving the room upset. "Whatever happens, don't look for me unless it's to apologize to me," she said, before locking Michael's door. When he was finally alone, he began to do all the things his mother forbade him to do. He turned on the television in his room with the volume up to the maximum level, climbed onto his bed to jump on it, grabbed all his clothes from the shelves, and scattered them all over the floor. "There is nothing better than being disobedient," said little Michael. However, he would be in for a surprise very soon. In the middle of the dark night, a strong lightning bolt flashed from the sky, causing a blackout. The roar sent chills through Michael, and then a mighty rain fell. "Oh no!" he yelled. The boy's room was submerged in shadows. Michael couldn't even see his hands. He ran to the window and noticed that his entire neighborhood had also lost power. There was no one on the streets. The water was crashing violently on the roof of his home, and he felt so alone that he wanted to cry, but he held on. "Crying is for babies," Michael muttered. But deep down, he wasn't so sure of his words. As he looked out the window, he noticed that there was something strange outside on the street. "What is that?" he wondered. Michael couldn't see it clearly because everything was dark, but he felt like the spot was watching him. He felt chills. And then suddenly, a new bolt of lightning flashed in the sky. He closed his eyes in fear, and when he opened them, he realized that the spot had disappeared. Wow, could I have imagined it? He said to himself, a little unsure. He sat on his bed and breathed slowly to calm himself. However, the darkness and silence did not allow him to feel calm. Then he heard a sound coming from downstairs. Michael swallowed hard, his heart pounding. His legs were shaking, but he got up, opened his door, and walked through the shadows across the hall. He wanted to find out what had caused the noise. He went downstairs and into the living room. In the darkness, he tried to see if a mouse or a cat had crept in, but he found nothing. Then, he remembered the white spot he had seen earlier, and his entire body began to shake in fear. He went back up to his room and put on the lock. Everything is in my imagination. Everything. I imagine it, said Michael. However, the boy heard another sound. And this time, it came from his hallway. Now he was utterly terrified. It sounded like it was scratching the walls with long, sharp nails. He felt chills, and it was unpleasant. He should find his mother, even if it meant apologizing. When he opened the door and looked down the hall, he saw it. It was the terrible white spot he had noticed on the street. Now it was there, next to him, staring back at him. Michael ran to the door of his mother's room and knocked loudly, saying, "Mom, I need your help. There's something that wants to hurt me. I'm afraid." Then he turned into the hallway, and a strong bolt of lightning darted from the sky again. This time, its light illuminated the entire house, and Michael could see what the spot was. She was a woman, as white as death, with dark eyes full of despair, who wore a torn and dirty white gown. "Mom, I'm sorry, I won't be disobedient again," Michael shouted through tears. And at that moment, his mother opened the door. "What's wrong, little boy? I didn't even notice the power was out," she said, yawning. Michael held her tightly, and when he looked back, he discovered that the woman had disappeared. He was safe, so far. "Nothing, Mom. I just promise you that I will never disobey you again. Can I sleep with you tonight?" he asked, and his mother agreed. The woman in white persecutes disobedient children because she misses her own children. When she was alive, her kids disobeyed her all the time. So, she killed them. Since then, the white lady always looks for kids who look like her own. Ever since Michael experienced that horrifying sighting of the white lady, he always obeyed his mom until he grew up into a fine young man. Lesson learned. Obey your parents, or you might start seeing things you don't want to see. Even if you're bored, don't go into a cemetery. This story happened during a full moon night. It was very late. So much so that it was way past the children's curfew or even bedtime. Savannah, Kevin, and Derek were 3 kids who believed they could do whatever they wanted. So they ran away from their parents and hung out to plan some mischief together. That night, the 3 of them had the bad idea of wandering near a cemetery. All 3 of them were silly, and they were always daring themselves to do stupid things. For that reason, when Kevin saw that the entrance to the cemetery was open, he yelled, "Hey, you guys, we have to go in there. We've never been to a cemetery." Derek replied, "Yeah, We sure can get cool things from the graves. Savannah was the only one who hesitated, but for a very special reason. Her grandmother always told her never to go into cemeteries at night, because she could wake up unknown forces who did not want to be awakened. And she should certainly not do this during the full moon, because it is the time when the dead are more susceptible to being awakened. The girl said to her friends, "Hey guys, I don't want to go in. What if something bad happens to us?" The boys made fun of Savannah, calling her a scaredy cat. So she ended up following them to the cemetery because she hated it when they didn't take her seriously. The cemetery was wrapped in shadows. It was such a dark and silent place that not even the light of the stars dared to enter it. The three friends walked among the graves, laughing nervously at first, then feeling increasingly insecure about the thoughts of their going in at night. The cool breeze brushed their skin and made the leaves of the trees sway. Derek was staring at the tombstones with a lump in his throat. Kevin was looking around nervously, and Savannah really wanted to get out of there. "Guys, why don't we all just go home?" she asked. Although the other two children were fools and did not want to show that they were afraid, they agreed that it was time to go back. However, when Savannah tried to open the gate to leave, she found out that it was locked. The two boys started shaking, and it was Savannah who had a solution. "On the other side of the cemetery, there's an exit. Let's go over there." They had no other choice but to walk through the graves, the fog, and the eerie shadows. The children were afraid that the souls of the dead would come out of the coffins and grab their ankles, so they walked as fast as they could. Unfortunately, halfway to the other side, Derek heard someone walking behind them. "You guys, someone's following us," he told Savannah and Kevin. Although they did not see anything when they turned to the place where the sound came from, soon the three of them all heard the same thing. The steps of something heavy. They were the steps of a creature that did not want them to be there. Savannah, Derek, and Kevin cried in terror and hurriedly ran. When they got out of the cemetery, they thought they would be safe, but things only got worse for them. As they walked back to their houses, Derek noticed that in the middle of the street, a huge shadow was slowly approaching. Guys, run!" he yelled, but all three children were paralyzed. The shadow was so large that it covered the full moon. It was like coming face to face with death. It was darker than going down a deep, long well. Kevin's stomach hurt so badly that he threw up, and that made the other two of them react the same way. They felt very cold. But they began to flee because they didn't want to see the thing that was out there, the thing that was going to get them. "Let's go to my grandmother's house, it's close to here," Savannah yelled. The three kids ran in the middle of the lonely streets, feeling on their backs how the terrible shadow was getting closer and closer to them. The stars stopped shining. The street lights went out. They felt the shadow rise higher, open its mouth, and gnaw on the air, preparing to swallow them. "I don't want to die! I don't want to die!" Kevin yelled. Little by little, the world filled with more shadows. Little by little, the children lost the strength in their legs. The shadow was going to gobble them. It was going to take them to a place so gloomy that they would forget who and where they had been. However, their luck soon changed. Savannah's grandmother had her window open that night, and she heard running in the street. "Oh no, I must help them," she yelled when she saw the kids running toward her house. She ran to the door, opened it for the children to enter, and yelled at the shadow, "Stop! Go back! Go! I'll let them know that they did wrong!" The shadow stopped, bowed to the old woman, and then disappeared. The children were crying hysterically. The old lady came up and asked, "Children, did you go into the cemetery?" They nodded. "Yes, and we will never do it again." Grandma made them hot tea to calm them down. You must never do it again, children. That shadow is the protector of the dead. If someone disturbs their rest during sacred hours, it is the shadow's duty to punish them, she told the three, and they understood. The children never forgot the shadow that almost swallowed them whole, and never again did they dare to step into a cemetery. Lesson learned. Never go into the cemetery and mess with the dead, for they are now resting in peace. Helping a hitchhiker? Think again. Some time ago, a family that lived in a big city decided they would travel to a distant forest to take a few days of vacation. The distance was so great that the family would have to travel for a whole morning and a whole night to get there. The father, Luke, was an adventurous and funny man. The mother, Anna, was pretty and loving. And the son, Jimmy, was quite shy. The three of them packed all they needed for their outdoors adventure, loaded the luggage into their van, and left. During the day, everything was fun and filled with laughter. Anna sang a song, and Jimmy clapped while Luke drove and hummed the tune. They enjoyed a day of beautiful sky and nature. But when night came, things drastically changed. The road was so dark that Luke decided to turn off the music so he could concentrate. The moon did not appear in the sky, and neither did the stars. It was very quiet. Jimmy was scared. He felt that something was not right. Anna was looking out the window from the passenger seat. The area was covered with a thick, heavy fog that did not allow them to see much. Jimmy was absolutely right. There was something wrong. He could sense it. And they were soon about to find out what. They were continuing on their way when they suddenly noticed a tall, thin man standing on the side of the road with his thumb extended. Jimmy asked, "Dad, does he need us to take him somewhere?" It didn't seem normal to Luke that someone would be in that area at that time of the night. It was totally strange. However, he had a good heart, so he stopped to talk to the stranger. "Hey, do you need some help?" Luke asked as he rolled down the car window. The stranger approached, and Jimmy shivered. The man's face wasn't horrible, but there was something eerie about him that made his stomach ache. He had sunken, big blue eyes, and his face was very pale, as if he was very sick. Jimmy noticed that the man was staring at him, so he started to feel uncomfortable.
"Hi, thanks for stopping by. You, little one, you look a lot like my son, Ethan. I'm gonna see him right now. I think you and I can become great friends," the stranger said as he pointed to Jimmy. Anna and Luke looked at each other nervously. Luke asked again, "Dude, do you need help?" But the man didn't seem to be paying attention. He was just looking at little Jimmy, and his gaze was so strange that everyone in the car was starting to be afraid.
"Little one, you look a lot like my son, Ethan. Wouldn't you like to be my friend?" said the stranger.
At that moment, the father decided to step on the gas, and hurriedly they sped away from the place. That had been too weird. When the three of them turned to look back at the man, their hearts began to pound. There was no one on the road. The hitchhiker had disappeared. "You two saw what I saw, right?" asked Luke. Anna and Jimmy nodded their heads. The little one was shaking. Anna said, "I don't know what that man wanted, but he was looking at Jimmy in a way that I didn't like." They kept driving on that dark road. They felt that the night had grown darker, that the mist had increased its thickness. They were so cold that their bodies began to shiver, and that was not normal because it was the middle of summer. Then something happened that terrified the whole family. Up ahead stood the man they had left behind. It was the same guy who they had seen earlier, the one who had disappeared into thin air. He was hailing them by the edge of the road. His smile was terrifying, and his eyes were hideous. The family did not stop this time. Jimmy was crying, and Anna moved into the back seat so he could snuggle into her arms. Luke said, "It must have been a fluke," to calm them down. But then they saw the man a third time. It was him again, and they absolutely had no doubts. It was as if they were driving in a circle, as if he was a mole popping up again and again, only this mole wanted to take little Jimmy with him. The family continued driving at full speed without slowing down for a while. The stranger kept showing up hundreds of times over at every turn they took, and the night seemed to never end. However, when they made it to the forest at dawn, things calmed down. The family found a group of rangers at the entrance of the place. When Luke told them what he, Anna, and Jimmy had seen, they sighed sadly and revealed the truth. Friends, it is not advisable to travel here overnight. The man you saw was named Peter, and he died in an accident on that road while he was visiting his son Ethan in the hospital. His son died that day too, and they could never see each other. Since then, Peter has appeared to all the families with small children who take this road at night. They say he wants to take them away, but nobody knows for sure what he is looking for. The truth is that it is not always good to help hitchhikers. Lesson learned. Don't help a hitchhiker, for you'll never know who they really are. The Face in the Window. Once upon a time, in a small town far away, a girl named Ginny enjoyed doing something that was not right, walking into abandoned houses with her friends. Ginny always had a good time trespassing on abandoned property because she liked mystery, risks, and adventures. Her mother lectured her all the time, but Ginny took every opportunity to run away from home and continue to get into trouble. On one occasion, however, she came across something she didn't expect to see. Near her neighborhood, there was a big house that had been abandoned long ago. Ginny and her friends had gone up there several times and always got chills when they saw the huge, dark windows. Every night, a white, misshapen, and terrifying face appeared behind one of those windows. Nobody passed near that house when the sun went down. It was a frightening experience. Ginny, on the other hand, was extremely curious to find out what that face was. She didn't see anyone going in or out of the house, so she was sure it must be a simple stain. For that reason, one night, Ginny managed to convince her friends, Denise and Paul, to accompany her inside. They were both scared, but Ginny's absurd courage inspired them to play along with her. "If you don't come with me, you guys are both chickens," she told them, and that was enough. When the three of them stood in front of the house, they felt chills. The street was silent. There was no one near them. It seemed that the world had stopped around them. In a window, they could see the frightening white face. Ginny, Denise, and Paul climbed over the walls of the house very carefully to avoid alerting the neighbors. They crept through the neglected garden and then opened the door. It smelled of abandonment and sadness. It was very cold inside. Denise shivered, and Paul was scared. There was no electricity, so they moved slowly through the shadows with the feeling that something terrible was about to happen. Then they heard it. It came from upstairs. The cry of a little girl. Their hearts pounded, and Denise couldn't help but run. Paul looked at Ginny terrified and said, "Let's go, please. I don't want to leave you alone, but I'm not going up to the second floor." She replied, "I'm not going to leave." He hesitated for a few seconds, but eventually he left. Only Ginny stayed inside the house. Ginny walked carefully up the stairs, listening to the crying get louder and louder. The house looked run down and dirty, and there was so much dust that Ginny felt like coughing. Her heart sounded like a drum. Her stomach ached, and her head throbbed. She wanted to run away from there, but she kept going. Then, at last, she found the source of the crying. The face in the window wasn't a stain. The source of the crying wasn't something she could explain. It was the white silhouette of a little girl who was leaning against the window, crying profusely. "Why does Mom take so long to come?" said the ghostly girl. Ginny stumbled by accident, and the weeping girl turned around. Ginny saw her deformed white face, her black eyes, her messy, disheveled hair. She felt a lot of fear and pity. The ghostly apparition was a girl, just like her. "What are you doing here?" the ghostly girl asked. Ginny froze for a few seconds until she was finally able to speak. I see you every night from outside the window, so I decided to pay you a visit," Ginny replied. The ghost stared at her, and then yelled, "Mom, it's you!" and ran out to hug her. Ginny felt the cold arms of the ghost touch her and then go through her. She was shaking. She wanted to get out of there. "I'm not your mother, I'm sorry," Ginny said. And when the girl walked away, Ginny asked, "What was your mom's name?" The ghost thought for a few seconds and then said, "Her name is Lucy, and she's coming home to bring me my birthday cake right now. I love my mother. We are very close. She promised that today would be a fantastic day. I'm dying to see her." Ginny decided to go down the stairs and get out of there as soon as possible. She ran through the garden, jumped over the wall, and there she found Paul and Denise waiting for her. "Are you okay? Thank God you made it out," they said. Ginny then revealed what she had discovered. "Guys, I recently read some very bad news. A woman named Lucy died in an accident while carrying a birthday cake to her daughter who was very ill. The girl felt so sad when she found out that her heart suddenly stopped beating. That up there is Lucy's daughter, and she's still waiting for her." Lesson learned. There is a reason why ghosts always come back. Maybe it's because they are waiting for their loved ones to return? Who knows? The bark of an old, furry friend. Once upon a time, there was a little boy named Nico, who for a few days had been hearing strange sounds. He had previously been a curious, funny, and happy kid, but now he was usually very sad. Nico walked to school hearing sounds that didn't seem to come from anywhere. He heard some barking, but there weren't any dogs nearby. During his class, he also heard them. So he would look out his classroom windows trying to find the source of the noise. He was unsuccessful, and that made him feel strange. When he got home, the barking chased him, even to his room. It was the first thing he heard in the morning, and it was the last thing he heard at night. Nico dreamed of a furry friend of his that he had recently lost. He didn't want to think too much about it, but he missed him a lot, and that was the cause of his sadness. He didn't tell his parents about the barking because he knew they weren't going to believe him. So he made a plan by himself. He'd take a big plate of dog biscuits to the garden. He would hide behind some bushes in order to capture whatever was responsible for the barking. Nico carried out his plan, but things did not go his way. No dogs came near to devour the cookies, and he could still hear the barking. It was as if something was chasing him, and that made him feel a little scared. One afternoon, however, Nico decided that it was time to meet it, whatever was making the sound. It was snowing, so it was going to be easier to catch the animal by the tracks it would leave behind. Nico went to his backyard and lay in the snow with his face up. However, he heard the barking again. "Noisy animal, appear at once!" Nico yelled, and then ran around his home trying to find it. He looked under the grill, the sofas, the chairs, and the car. Nothing. Nico went to the center of the courtyard again and dropped into the snow. "Where are you? Why are you chasing me?" asked the boy. Then he saw an invisible paw print appear in front of his eyes, as if it were walking. Then another. And heard, instead of a bark, a low whimper. Nico recognized the familiar sound, as it was the same sound his dog, Rufus, had made when he was alive. Since Nico was a baby, he and Rufus had been the best of friends. Together, they ran every afternoon in the park, played hide and seek, and had fun in the snow. He and Rufus learned to swim at the same time, and they even slept in the same room. Nico felt that the dog was like his brother, that he was special, just like family. However, something had happened one day to Rufus that changed Nico's life forever. Nico was playing tag with two of his friends from the neighborhood and did not notice a huge truck coming at full speed. Nico found himself in the middle of the street just as the vehicle was coming. And then, a hero saved his life. Rufus ran to Nico and gave him a shove. The dog took the hit for him, and Nico couldn't bear it. Since that day, nothing had ever been the same. However, now Nico was hearing his dog crying, and he soon realized that it was Rufus who had been chasing him. "Rufus! Buddy, it's you!" he cried, tears running down his face. Then, for the first time, Nico was able to understand what Rufus meant by his barking. Rufus made it known to Nico that he shouldn't be sad anymore, that he should appreciate the opportunity that had been given to him and continue living happily. The dog told Nico that he should not suffer because he, Rufus, was in heaven with all the other dogs and other animals that had left this world behind. It was like Rufus was telling him that the cookies up there were more delicious, that he was no longer chasing cats, and that he would always be there to take care of Nico and keep him company. Yes, even from above. Rufus told him that he should be a good boy, that he should brush his teeth, that he should listen to his parents, and that he should enjoy life for the both of them. Nico could not stop crying, and felt a few soft licks on his face. "Rufus, buddy, I love you, and I wish you have a happy life up there in heaven. I will never forget you, but from now on, I will let you go," Nico said. And then he opened his arms to hug his companion for the last time. He felt his fur and felt his heart beating next to his own. That was the last time Nico heard his barking. The last time his beloved pet came from beyond to visit him. Although Rufus was always going to be in his heart, Nico never felt sad again when he remembered his friend. Nico felt at peace now. Lesson learned. If you ever lose a beloved pet, just know you are not alone, and they will always be watching you. Yes, even from heaven. Play a Ouija board? Bad idea. A long time ago, 3 friends decided they wanted to play a Ouija board in a small and secluded town. Their names were Eric, Gwen, and Ryan, and they worshipped everything that had to do with ghosts, spirits, demons, and supernatural beings. They enjoyed being afraid, even though they had never done anything that was truly terrifying. For that reason, one day, Eric secretly took his sister's Ouija board and brought it to his friends. "Guys, it's time to have real fun," he told them. The three of them met in a dark park in the middle of the night. There were no stars in the sky, and the lamppost twinkled, but at the same time, the night felt scary. It was very cold, and everything was absolutely silent. Eric placed the board on a spinning wheel, and they finally began to play. At first, it was all laughs and giggles. Gwen, Ryan, and Eric held the pointer with their fingers and acted silly.
Did Eric take a shower today?
Gwen asked, and the pointer moved to no. The three friends were having a good time until, suddenly, things started to get dark. Ryan asked, "Is there a spirit that wants to talk to us?" And the pointer moved to yes. At that moment, the swings began to move slightly, and the three of them jumped. "Wow, this seems to be real," Eric said, laughing. Ryan asked the Ouija, "Who do you want to talk to?" And the pointer spelled Gwen's name. She felt uncomfortable. Her legs were shaking. The swings were moving faster now, as if someone was actually swinging on them. The place was getting colder by the second. Eric asked the Ouija, "What do you want to say to Gwen?" And the pointer said, "She is very cute. I'll follow her wherever she goes." The three friends laughed, although deep down they were as scared as mice. At that moment, the spinning wheel on which the Ouija was sitting began to spin with great force. All the swings rocked from side to side, and the seesaw went up and down. "Stop it! Stop it! Whatever's doing this, stop it!" Eric said, but neither Ryan nor Gwen understood what was going on. The three of them fled in different directions, Eric taking the Ouija with him to return it to his sister. The next day, they would pretend that nothing had really happened in the park, and that everything had been the work of their imaginations. But it was not possible for them to believe this. When Gwen got to school, Ryan and Eric noticed that she hadn't slept at all. Her eyes looked tired and she looked upset. "Gwen, what happened to you?" they asked. She replied, "Whatever we woke up last night did follow me, guys. He was at my house last night. He watched me try to sleep. That thing was in the corner at the back of my room, and even though he had no eyes, I knew that he was watching me. I'm scared. I think he might kill me if we don't do something to stop him." Eric sighed, hugged his friend, and then said, "We'll have to find my sister. She can help us." Susie, Eric's sister, was angry when she found out that her board had been taken without permission. "What you did was very dangerous, silly. Your friend is now in danger because of you," she told Eric when he confessed the truth. But then she agreed to help them because she was afraid of what might happen to Gwen. That same night, the four met in the same park. They set the board on the sand, and the first thing Susie did was ask, "Did you ask permission to end the game?" They all shook their heads looking at each other. "You must always end the game. That's the cause of this mess." Everyone took the pointer with their fingers, and then everything started to spiral out of control. The swings moved with such force that one of the two fell off. The seesaw went up and down violently, and the slide squeaked as though someone was sliding on it. Susie and the others yelled, "Spirit, please leave Gwen alone!" The pointer moved to no. Gwen felt she was going to be sick. Eric was shaking with panic, and Ryan was crying. They all shouted again, "Spirit, please leave Gwen alone!" But again it indicated no on the chart. Susie yelled, "Let's do it one last time!" So everyone said, "Spirit, please leave Gwen alone!" Then all movement in the park stopped. A cold wind brushed past each of the children, and then the pointer went to yes. Gwen was free from the spirit that had followed her ever since they first touched the Ouija board. The three friends hugged each other, feeling relieved, and Susie took the board and broke it in half. "Now no one is going to use it again. Who of you came up with the silly idea that playing Ouija was fun and even safe?" Susie said. And they all apologized to her, promising to be more careful and not to mess with the dark business or borrow her things again. Lesson learned. Never mess with a Ouija board, as it can reach spirits that you don't want in your life. Now that you've heard these 6 scary tales, I'm sure you will find it hard to sleep. Again, I suggest you ask your parent or a grown-up for help to help you relax your mind and keep you at ease. How did you like these 6 scary ghost stories? I hope it teaches you young ones that being good is the key to avoid these crazy things from happening. Thank you for listening. Go to sleep. I dare you. We hope you enjoyed these stories. If you'd like more updates on the author's books, go to our website at www.monalizasantos.com. That's www.monalizasantos.com. To follow more about the author's updates, follow Mona Lisa Santos on her Instagram at Momos Voyage. That's MOMOS Voyage. For more updates on herself and on her children's books. She writes not only scary stories, but motivational and inspirational books for children as well. Stay blessed and have a good day. This has been Go to Sleep, I Dare You. 6 Scary Tales for Young Readers. Written by Mona Lisa Santos. Illustrated by Petra Stankovic. Narrated by Andrew Baldwin. Copyright 2021 by Mona Lisa Santos. Production copyright by Mona Lisa Santos. The end.